Okay, thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here to speak to you all. So as Kim said, I'm an occupational therapist, and I'm going to talk about the Cork Dementia Alliance, who we are, what we do, and then we're going to hear from Charlie afterwards. So the Cork Dementia Alliance is a community dementia service, and it's a joint initiative between the HSC, the Alzheimer's Society and Ballyhare Rural Services, who are a local organisation. And we're based in the Memory Resource Room in Mallow Primary Healthcare Centre. And I suppose just a little bit of background on the service. So I was employed in a dementia-specific primary care post back in 2010. And I began working with Amy Murphy, who's the now dementia advisor with the Alzheimer's Society. And we got together and we started working on small initiatives. So things like information stands in the primary care centre, stands in the train stations, the credit unions. We started doing public information evenings. And then we were in a position, I suppose, to apply for the Genio funding back in 2012. So that was Atlantic Philanthropy funding. And we weren't successful in that application, but we'd set up a consortium and we kept the momentum going. We kept together and we opened the Memory Resource Room in 2013. And then when the next batch of Genio applications were open, we were successful that time. And then as a result of that funding, we set up as a company limited by guarantee, which we have a board, and we registered as a charity. So the aims of our services are to provide supports for people with dementia, support families, and to create awareness of dementia. And we have a fantastic working group. So I mentioned Amy Murphy, the dementia advisor. We've Margaret McEntee, who is our dementia service coordinator, and Sinead Galvin, our project worker who started with us in January. And just a little plug for Amy and Margaret. So Amy's doing her talk on the Cuivna group in the afternoon. So that's on the younger onset group that she runs in Cork. And Margaret is also talking about exercising for the brain, which is a physical activity group that we run in North Cork, and she's presenting on her master's research, and that'll be later on. So they're both really interesting talks that I'd recommend you attend. So in terms of our supports for people with dementia, I'm not going to go into any of these in any great detail just because of the time. So if any of you want to talk to myself, Amy, or Margaret afterwards, you're more than welcome to. But generally, I meet with people in the Memory Resource Room, and that's around discussing the challenges that they may be experiencing. So we talk about really practical things like memory strategies, technology, adapting to a diagnosis of dementia. We look at the importance of brain health, staying mentally, physically, socially active. And then we also look at the services that we provide. And we have a counselling service for people with dementia and their families. People can be referred for between 6 to 12 sessions, which is subsidised. We have memory groups then as well, so the psychoeducational group, 6-week group, and that's again around, sharing experiences, the importance of staying active. We look at things like hearing, the fatigue that come with the dementia diagnosis. And I suppose it's also about, empowerment and hope for people to meet others in similar situations and to realize that you're not alone. And as I say, we also look at really practical things like memory strategies, improving attention. So that group has evolved. We've been running those since 2014, and it's massively evolved as the landscape in dementia has changed in Ireland. We run Brain Gym as well, and that's 6-week groups, and it's looking at cognitive challenges in a really supportive and fun environment. And the other thing that we have is Try It For Your Brain. And I suppose we're trying to make sure that we provide a range of services for people, because obviously people are individuals, they have different interests. So Try It For Your Brain is around creative activities. So we've done a ukulele group, we've just finished a writing group, we're starting an Art For Your Brain group. And again, the whole thing is solidarity and trying something creative in a supportive environment. Singing for Your Brain then is a weekly singing group, but we started that back 10 years ago, and there's now a network of these in Cork. There's about 8 to 10 of these groups throughout the county. We've social clubs where we go different places of interest every month. Exercising for the Brain then is a physical activity group run by a fitness instructor, and like I say, Margaret is going to talk about that in her talk. And then we've the Charleville Sip and Social and Dementia Cafes. So supports for families, so some of them overlap with what I described already, but we also run 6-week family information sessions. And I run those with Amy, the dementia advisor, and we also have a clinical psychologist as well that does some of the sessions around changing relationships and self-care. And we look at different topics every week. And again, it's that support and getting information about dementia. So we are committed to creating awareness of dementia and reducing the stigma. And we run 2 public information evenings a year. We've been running these for many years. We've had Kevin here. Kevin's a fellow North Cork man. And we've been running them, as I say, for many years. We've had Kathy Ryan speaking, Margaret Keating. We always hear from the person with dementia at these sessions. Kevin Quaid, Charlie, they've all spoken at these information events over the years. And we've done awareness raising in communities as well. We've been to Kanturk and Charleville, Kanturk where Charlie and Kevin are both from. And we've had the mobile information bus there talking to businesses about, about dementia, about the challenges they face, and then providing awareness raising as well around that. So I suppose just to give you some real life scenarios of people with dementia that we support, and with permission, Tom and Mary have allowed us to share some of the supports that they've availed of. So Tom has vascular dementia, and they would have come in contact with us back in 2023. And these are some of the services that they would have availed of. And, you can see there, the picture was taken at our Christmas party. So we have a fantastic Christmas party every year. And I suppose, the thing about these supports that we provide, Tom and Anne are another couple that we work with, and Tom has had counselling, and these other groups that I've listed there, they attend together. And a big part of the services that we provide, it's all about camaraderie, it's friendship, it's support. It's okay if somebody is repeating themselves or not remembering a word. There's a supportive environment, and it's family. People describe it as family. Even at the break, I was talking to Ellen, Charlie's wife, and she describes, the camaraderie as being like a family. This couple, Tom and Anne, live in Mitchellstown, and they travel to Newmarket, which is quite a distance every month to attend our services. So just some statistics there, and I actually can't even read it, it's very small. So just the first quarter of 2025, so just January, February, March this year. So 158 people actively engaged with the North Cork Dementia Alliance. 80 of those are people with dementia, 66 were relatives, and 12 were members of the public or former carers. So we've lots of carers that we have worked with that maybe attended groups with their loved ones who've now gone into long-term care or who've passed away, who are still want to stay linked with us. And 144 people are actively engaging. And by actively engaging, I mean have availed of more than one service. So not a once-off cafe or a once-off memory resource room appointment. They're actively engaging with the service. Now, that's to say only the first quarter. We've many, many more people on our books that we'll be meeting throughout the year. And then the pathways to the service. So of the 120 relatives and people with dementia who are linked with us, of the 146, 120 came through via memory resource room appointment, and 26 then were referred by Amy, the dementia advisor, or word of mouth. And I suppose of note, of the 120 that attended the memory resource room appointments, 106 subsequently actively engaged in our services. So there's a real appetite for services, for people to be supported and to get the practical supports that they need, and that camaraderie piece as well. So just briefly around funding. So my post is a primary care HSE funded post, and then the Margaret and Sinead's posts are Section 39 funded. We also get the older person service grants, and we have fundraising, and Charlie has done some fantastic fundraising for us, as have other individuals. And we also then look for voluntary contributions to services, which massively help cover some of the costs. Some of the key colleagues, I mentioned Amy, but there's other Alzheimer's Society key workers that we are linked with. So Marie, the home care coordinator, the daycare centre coordinator. And I suppose the whole thing is clear communication, camaraderie between the organisations, trying to avoid duplication and making it easy for people to access services. We have a wonderful HSE community work department that we work really closely with and do those information sessions with. The Memory Technology Resource Room Network, wonderful group of OT colleagues. Emma O'Brien is here as well. Brilliant resources and support. And the National Dementia Office as well. Sinead here. Sinead, Fiona, Anya, always on hand to give advice and support. And I suppose if anyone is hoping to develop services in your area, they're absolutely brilliant for, as I say, that support, advice, and then promotion. And then we've the primary care team. We are based in the primary care building, so we've lots of support and interactions with the primary care team, and then the geriatrician as well. And I suppose just some further information, there's the map there shows North Cork. So the blue area there, North Cork is a massive geographical area. So we're really trying to make sure that we can provide services throughout North Cork. And we are fortunate that there's primary care centres in different areas that we can avail of. There's also community centres and spaces. So we're now developing services throughout different parts of North Cork. We have mailing lists, which again, really simple. So we've over 800 families, people with dementia, families and healthcare professionals who are on our email mailing list and over 80 on our postal list. And that's just about keeping people linked in with our service, about letting them know what's coming up. And I suppose being accessible. So we always say to people, get in touch. Here's our mobile, here's our email address, get in touch. If you have any issues, contact any of us and we will get back to you. Even if we can't answer that question, we'll find out who can. We work flexibly, we do evenings, we've done some Saturday work, so we've the Bealtaine Variety Festival coming up now on Sunday, that's, on a Sunday. So we work, we work flexibly to try and provide as much, support for people as we can. And we link with local organisations as well. And I suppose the big thing is that we started small, like I described, public information evenings or just even stands in the primary care centre. And lots of things haven't worked. We run things. I've said there, we love an old pilot. We do a 6-week. If it doesn't work, we move on. We've done mindfulness and that was great for a little while and then it wasn't working. We do cost benefit analysis and we move on if it's not working well. But we also revisit things as well. So we had yoga for relatives for about 1.5 years. Numbers dwindled, we stopped it, we'll probably start it up again because there's an interest again. So we're constantly reviewing our services and changing things around depending on the need and what people are telling us they're looking for. What the individual and the relatives are telling us is important for them. We try to address that. And Helen, you mentioned laughter, and I think that's a really, really important point. And we try and make sure that that's, a part of the different things that we do. That there's camaraderie, hope, laughter, solidarity. And I suppose just some other supports then. We have a children's book, so that's for primary school age children. So Kevin helped us launch that and did some photos around that back in 2018. We've a calendar then that's free to download on our website, and that's around, reasons why somebody with dementia may be agitated or withdrawn. And we've got, so it might be something like, it could be the environment's too noisy. It could be, that the person is bored. It could be that they have an infection. And then we've got tips for supporting the individual as well. And then we also are on social media. And I suppose the aim of this is to provide information for people in Cork about all the providers in Cork. So there's lots of people doing different things in Cork. So we have a wonderful alliance in Bantry. The Alzheimer's Society are doing a lot. Cove, Youghal, there's lots of things happening. And we want to make sure that people can get access to that services easily. So that's what the social media sites are. But I suppose I wanted to show you a quick video before I finish up. I just want to show you a quick video which shows some of the highlights of the services over the last couple of years. And we've asked people who avail of our services what the North Cork Dementia Alliance means to them. And I'm going to just show that video and then we're going to hear from Charlie.
Brenda. Fine. This one. Inspiring.
Welcoming.
Friendship.
Friendly. Friendship. No.
Freedom.
Remembers.
Courageous.
Brilliant.
Joyous.
Support.
Okay, so thank you all for listening, and we're going to hear from Charlie now.
I'm afraid Sheena has covered a lot of what I said, and I don't know what the lady in red, I'll call her. I don't know, I can't think of your name. Pardon? Helen. But I'll go through it as best I can anyway. And the only thing I will say before I start, seeing as I have a few minutes, Sheena mentioned there about things they can't do. I can guarantee you one thing, that there's nothing that the Cork Dementia Reliance Committee can't do. Because by God, I'll tell you something, when they put their mind to it, it will be done. And you need only give them a sniff of something. And it's the case of, hey guys, come here, let me tell you, I have an idea. That's Margaret. Come here, guys. With her one hand accent. But anyway, I'll start off. Good evening, or good afternoon. Oh, Jesus, it knows the morning, whatever it is. But anyway, it's great to be here. And I'm highly honoured to have been chosen and invited to represent the Cork Dementia Alliance at this very important event, the 17th International Conference here in Athlone, organised by Engaging Dementia, is Chief Executive Kimberly Tully, I beg your pardon, and her team. I'm going to speak about my experiences of living with dementia, share some of those experiences with you and with so many like-minded people here this afternoon who have been diagnosed with dementia or those who are caring for people diagnosed with dementia. But first, I am going to speak a little bit about all of the wonderful people that have come into my life and that of my wife Ellen's, and she's, I nearly forgot her name. My wife's, well, I have dementia, wherever she is. People that have come into our life since I was diagnosed with dementia in 2018. First, my name is Charlie Drake, from a place called Drumtariff, about halfway between Mallow and Killarney, very close to the Kerry border, hence the double accent, a bit of Cork and a bit of Kerry. I'm privileged to be the recipient of the wonderful services this organisation provides for us, that's the North Cork Dementia Alliance. Since Ellen and I were introduced to that organisation, we have been attending all of the services and social events available to us that have shown me and so many others on how to live and cope with dementia. Both Ellen and myself have met some lovely, wonderful people, and as a result, we have become great friends. Almost, like Sheena said, one big happy family, from Mallow, Fermoy, Mitchelstown, Charleville, Bantry, and here to Athlone today, and many other places that we have visited and groups we have engaged with. There is definitely a common, strong and personal bond between the people diagnosed with dementia, their carers, family members, and of course all the professional personnel and administration staff involved with us and that look after us so well. The first time I realised there was something wrong with me was back in 2017 or 18, I'm not quite sure, but I was driving to visit a very close and lifelong friend who was terminally ill in hospital. All of a sudden, I felt completely lost. I didn't have a clue where I was going, who I was, or where I was coming from. I pulled into the hard shoulder, switched off the engine, sat there and closed my eyes with a total blank feeling. It lasted several minutes. I don't know for how long, but I can tell you this much, I was scared. After a month or so, I had another episode. I have spoken about these on several occasions, and other occasions at the information evenings that Sheena mentioned. But I want anybody here listening to me for the first time, and those of you who have been recently diagnosed or living with somebody that have been diagnosed, to take on board and remember it's quite normal to be scared and confused when dementia strikes. But the most important thing to remember is there is help, advice and encouragement available. After those 2 episodes, Ellen encouraged me to go and see my GP, who in turn advised me to seek specialised help, advice, proper test and diagnosis. And in fact, she came with me just in case I wouldn't tell the doctor the full story, because remember, I was scared of what I was going to be told or what I may be told. And I may not have admitted half of what was wrong with me to that specialist. Looking back on it now, after I was diagnosed with the vascular dementia, I can remember my early signs of that dementia, which included mild slowness of thought, difficulty with planning things, trouble with understanding, problems with concentration, changes to my life, my mood swings and my behaviour, problems with my memory and language and not remembering names. I was lucky to have been diagnosed so early, and I made damn sure I was going to do exactly as advised and requested by my specialists and all the other qualified experts. Thanks be to God, I listened to Ellen and the GP and the specialist and was diagnosed at a very early stage, which I'm sure the other speakers have touched and may touch on further on as the conference goes by, and explained how important that is. Being diagnosed with dementia, I was in a position to seek the relevant counselling, start attending, accepting and appreciating all of the services available from the North Cork Dementia Alliance and all the other associated bodies has to offer, which may well prevent the necessity of taking medication. With just a few changes to your lifestyle, like healthy eating, exercising regularly, and many more such remedies can and will work wonders. As I have said, I felt scared, really frightened, and didn't want to accept or discuss with anyone. I must admit, it left me feeling very vulnerable and a huge sense of hopelessness. I was imagining all kinds of things and couldn't really see any great future. All of my life up to that time, I was extremely active and involved in all sorts of committees, GAA, community left schemes, active retirement groups, golfing, parish involvements, politics, and so on. And I have to admit, I had founded some of those associations, and at different times I had chaired them all. So I was extremely active and loved every minute of it. All that stopped and left a huge void in my life. I was referred by my specialist to a memory resource room at Mallow Primary Healthcare Centre in October of 2019 for a 6 weeks course on how to reorganise my life and learn how to cope with dementia. When I was first diagnosed with dementia back in 2018, I absolutely didn't have a clue what it was, because it was almost a taboo subject. I knew absolutely nothing, or I heard very little about Alzheimer's or dementia, because it was only a wink, a nod and a whisper. If there was a mention of Alzheimer's or dementia, it was almost inevitably followed by the sentence, what home or other such residence was available to accommodate the person diagnosed. I'm not going to mention all of the really valuable and hugely important services that I am so lucky to have at my fingertips from my local group, which happened to be the North Cork Dementia Alliance group, because they are all displayed there on their website and on the information boards. But I have to stress very strongly that without those many services that are available, I would not be talking to you here this evening, because of the very vulnerable and hopeless situation that I found myself in. I am very lucky in one sense because I have a very strong and loving, caring and understanding wife by my side, but she also had to adapt and face the changes and challenges associated with caring for someone diagnosed with dementia, as do all the other carers, dedicated carers. They really are the unsung heroes and deserve so much credit. After 2 weeks into that 6-week course I mentioned earlier, I knew and learned how to cope as best as was possible with dementia. and decided it was not going to beat me like, jeez, I've forgotten again. The lady in red, anyway, will say, told us about earlier on. I knew and learned how to cope as best as possible with dementia, so it was not going to beat me. Since my first encounter with the Memory Resource Centre, every day since is a school day. We are learning something new every day on how to improve and cope with our condition. We have to accept and understand we won't be cured, but we can definitely slow down the progression of dementia. In my case, fear of the unknown was dispensed with, acceptance of what was thrust upon me, and how to make my life a lot easier for both Ellen and myself. But more importantly, knowing that I had some wonderful people to turn to in my hour of need, backed up by that fantastic organisation that I have mentioned. As for living with dementia is concerned, I have good, happy, normal days. I have bad days. I have days when I become very agitated, emotional, frightened and depressed. I have days when I worry about my future and the dementia progression. I have days when I go back and remember my childhood. I can remember the first day I started school and my first teacher, Mrs. Sheena, God rest her gentle soul. I can remember the terrible snow of 1947 when I was only 3 years old. But sadly, there are days when I can't remember what Ellen said to me a week, a day, or even an hour ago. I have the nightmares, the hallucinations, the dreams, the constant repeating of things going on and on and on and on inside my brain, lack of sleep, terrible sweating episodes, changes in my eating habits, swallowing of my food, balance when standing and walking, and so many other hidden problems associated with dementia, stroke, Alzheimer's. I am one of the lucky ones because I was only diagnosed with vascular dementia. And so far, with all of the services in medical care and attention I have spoken about earlier, I am leading quite a good and as normal as life as possible. And foremost of those was the early detection of the dementia and the medical, physical and practical advice on how to change and cope with the problems. Yet, people say to me, Jesus, there's nothing wrong with you or your memory. I can assure those people who think there's nothing wrong with me, all I can say is come and live with me for a day, a week or a month and they'll see for themselves. Any of us that are diagnosed with dementia did not set out to readily accept it. It was thrust upon us and we will have to accept it and change our lifestyles a little. For those of us that can stay and will stay active and involved in as normal a life as possible, I can assure you we will be rewarded by seeking, listening and availing of the wonderful services that are at our fingertips. From all the great organisations operating from all parts of this country and countries around the world. All with one common goal, to make people of all nations aware of Alzheimer's, stroke, dementia. It has completely dispersed with the terrible stigma that, again, my lady in red spoke about earlier. Sorry about your name, but I have dementia, so you'll have to. It completely dispersed with the stigma, the unknown and the unspoken words that have been associated with the disease for so many years. I can remember as a young fella listening to people, and they weren't all young people, they were fully grown men and women. I can remember the laughing, the mocking, the sneering, and the downgrading of people whose minds had, I suppose you could say, deteriorated to such an extent they were no longer in a position to live in what was or is supposed to be the real world. Some older people, indeed not so old anymore in today's world, the people being diagnosed are getting younger all the time. In days gone by, they were classed as doting, loopy, loony, and in some cases mad, and had become such a burden in life, there was only one option: find an asylum or other such homes to put them in, lock them away, and almost forget them. Well, it's thanks to the organisations I have mentioned and spoken about earlier, and the days that those days are long gone. I speak a lot about the North Cork Dementia Alliance, but that's because it's my local group. But every other group play a vital role in understanding, respecting, promoting and educating the general public in accepting Alzheimer's stroke dementia in the same way as any other illness inflicted on us humans. The organisations that I want to mention, and these are only the ones that I have come in contact with, Engaging Dementia, the Alzheimer's Society of Ireland, the North Cork Dementia Alliance and the Irish Dementia Working Group. Those organisations are the leaders in dementia care here in Ireland and around the world, where they all strive to do their best for us with dementia and our carers. They strive to promote a learning culture, continue to ensure best practice, and continually look to involve and improve the services and for the betterment of us all. We can't really begin to say thank you loud enough to each and every one of them. But it shouldn't stop us from trying to say it as loud and as often as we can. Thank you all, and the very best wishes and success to Kimberly, Tully, and all her team in making this 17th International Conference a resounding and inspirational and memorial conference. And I think I have a few minutes left, have I? Okay. I think I have about a couple of minutes left by my old calculation, and I'm going to use this with a small commercial. Before I came involved with the North Cork Dementia Alliance group, I started writing a book and got fed up with it and threw it away. Lost all the will, initiative and desire to carry on with it. So long story short, with the encouragement, advice of Sheena and Margaret and Amy and all the rest of the gang in the North Cork Dementia Alliance, lo and behold, I got it finished. It's printed and it's for sale. And I started, it's up outside in the bookshelf there. And all the profits are going to the North Cork Dementia Alliance. So if any of you have 25 euros to spare, please buy one. You won't be disappointed, and you will help a lot of people coming into the future care of the group. But it's all about days gone by, and a young fella growing up in rural Ireland in the 40s, 50s and 60s, big family in a small house and not enough to eat, and we had to strive for every bob we made. But there's also an awful lot of history from the electrification of rural Ireland, and all from the horse-drawn carriages right up to the John Deeres and all the rest of the deals. But if you can spare 25 bob or quid, go away and buy the old book, and I won't be telling you no more about it. Good luck to you.